Pledge of Allegiance. For all who are willing, please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business for today is the approval of our agenda. And I've got one item I would like to propose an addition to, but first I'll ask, does anybody else have any additions for today's meeting agenda? Debbie, did you have anything?
I was just getting ready to say that depends on what you're going to amend it to.
Great.
Madam Chair, I would like to add a discussion on the Senate District 35 election,
Okay.
if that wasn't your addition. But I think for clarity, for the voters, for the public that are here, and for us, I think it needs to be a public discussion.
Great. And I'd like to propose an addition under new business as well that will list item 1A relating to the advanced in-person voting schedule and adding for consideration and approval a voting site for the third week, October 27th through 31st of the November 4th election, so that we can align with the November 18th special called SD35 election. So those two amendments are on the table to the agenda.
We could probably, Daniel, take that as one amendment because it covers the same topic.
Okay.
And just add your motion because we don't really have to, unless you want to call a vote on, well,
We can
maybe
still-
we leave them separate if we need two separate votes. Yeah.
I think that in talking about the approval of the AIP for SD 35, you're going to have a discussion around it anyways. And so you could just maybe make that one, that an amendment to that one item to add discussion of SD 35 and voting on the third, adding a third week.
Okay, great. So we'll amend as,
Someone might want to make this motion, and if you do, then you can just say so moved after I say it. But
Great.
motion to amend the agenda, the first item of new business, to add a general discussion of the SD 35 special election and to consider adding an additional voting site for the third week of November 4th, of the November 4th election to the advance in person, to coordinate with the advance in person voting schedule being approved in item 1.
Madam Chair, I move to approve what Daniel just said to be added to new business under, that's one way to make me be quiet. To add it as a, actually the first agenda item under new business.
I second.
great, we have a motion to accept the amended agenda, correct? Or do we need to? That's the motion and the second for the amended agenda.
The combined two. I move that we add the first item under new business to include a discussion on Senate District 35 election, in addition to an addition for one additional early advance voting precinct under the same discussion.
Great. And we have the second.
Yes, I second.
Great. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended? All those opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Hopefully that made sense to everybody, what we're changing. Next up is public comment, and for this portion of the meeting, we will turn that over to our counsel, Daniel.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Today, the There's only one person signed up for public comment, so we'll do, I think we'll just stick with the 3 minutes unless the board wants to extend that. And so at this time, we will call on Beth Hendrickson.
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Hendrickson. I'd like to thank the board and the Elections Department for supporting as much access to voting as possible. Many voters appreciate the varied opportunities for voting, including early and late hours and weekends wherever possible. We also appreciate the election staff, including the poll workers who put in long hours, especially on Election Day. Due to these long hours and other factors, it is becoming more difficult for some who would like to serve to be able to do so. Please consider allowing for shifts at early voting and Election Day locations to allow all those who would like to be poll workers to do so. Since voter turnout is often an issue, particularly in odd years, and with all the changes in recently added elections, I again suggest having text reminders or push notifications to remind people about the election in time for them to research candidates, and then again closer to Election Day. These could share the times and locations for AIP or a link to them, as well as the races that are going to be on each ballot. These would be easy for recipients to share with friends and family, which might help spread the information further. This kind of voter outreach is going to be particularly critical given that we have overlapping early voting for the November 4th and November 18th elections, as well as the potential for further overlap during runoffs. Voters are going to need ready access to reminders and information about whether they vote, when and where they vote in each. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and for your service as you navigate all those changes.
All right, and that's it for public comment.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the September 8th, 2025 regular meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes, and are there any corrections or changes that need to be noted? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved. Second.
Thank you for that. It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the minutes. All those in favor, please vote yes. All those opposed, seeing none, the motion carries to approve the minutes 5-0. Thank you. All right, so next up, we are going to move to a public hearing portion of our meeting. During this portion, we will hear from staff and accept public comment on each of the 2 proposed temporary polling location changes. Following these presentations and comments, if there's no objection from the board, I propose that we hold one combined vote covering both items, but that's obviously up to everybody. These items concern temporary polling location changes for the upcoming special election for Senate District 35, which is on November 18th. I will pass it over to Michael to present.
Madam Chair, I have a point of inquiry. I'm just looking at our screen, and I want to make sure that on the streaming version that we do have video of what is on the screen. Normally, we show the speakers, we show the board.
Brett?
Usually, I don't know what it looks
know what it
like
looks
on
like. I don't know what it
Cobb
looks like.
TV.
We're asking for the people who are tuning in via YouTube, are they, when we're seeing a presentation from the staff, are the YouTube viewers seeing the presentation on their screen or seeing us on the dais? Is that your question?
Okay, but in between, we should, when we're speaking, we should be on the screen, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Back to normal business.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. The first location that we are asking for temporary change for polling location Dobbins 01, Windy Hill Community Center, located at 1885 Roswell Street in Marietta, to Dobbins 02, Cobb County Adult Education Center. When we reached out, there was some back and forth with the facility about their availability on the day before the election and election day. We tried to adjust the schedule, so we had some different options. We just couldn't align with the facility, and we had a small window to make this all happen before we had to propose a co-location. So in the essence of time, we decided to co-locate. It is worth noting that there are only 5 voters in Dobbins 01 for SD 35, so we'll have to notify and move 5 voters. The Dobbins 02 is located approximately 0.4 miles away. On the map, if you see the red dot and right to the left of it is the blue dot, that's the distance we're looking at here. It's 0.4 miles, 5 voters. So we are recommending that the board approves the changes from Dobbins 01 to co-locate within Dobbins 02. And the second one,
Michael, real quick, when you said 5 voters, where did that number come from?
there's only 5 voters within the precinct of Dobbins 01 that is eligible for Senate
Oh.
District 35. So
Got it.
we would
That's-
only be moving those
I
5
understand.
to another
That
location.
just seems so small, I had to ask, okay.
The second location we are requesting approval to temporarily change precinct Smyrna 3B, Cumberland Community Church, to Smyrna 3A, Shiloh Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now, this one does include all of the voters, not just 5. However, the unique thing about these 2 locations, they essentially share the same parcel of land. So a voter is still driving to the same location, even though they're voting at a different facility. We've had some troubles with Cumberland Community Church in the past, and rather than try to press them and damage our relationship even further, we just decided we'll co-locate with the facility next door, because like I said, you drive to Smyrna 3A, you're driving to Smyrna 3B, and vice versa. So with that, we are asking for the board to approve the polling location change from Smyrna 3B to Shiloh Seventh-day Church, Smyrna 3A.
I believe that we can open this to public hearing next, and then we'll do board comments.
Yes.
So is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on either of these precinct changes? All right. Well, let's open it up to the board for comments or questions.
I do have one question about Dobbins 01. How many total voters are in that precinct?
Give me 1 second.
I just want to make sure we don't have a street issue, if you know.
Total, I have active voters, the only figure I have is active voters, and it's 2,336.
Okay. That's odd that we would district 5 people into. I just want to make sure, the street problem we had
Yes,
with
ma'am.
the file I sent you, I just want to make sure we don't have a street problem on those 5 voters.
Sure, I'll get with Melissa right after this and make sure we
Okay.
double check
Yeah,
just to
just
ensure.
to double check. I'm the naysayer, right? But,
Absolutely.
Just to make sure.
I have comment. I would like to say these changes, they're evident to us and they make sense. And I appreciate the work that's gone into the comprehensive communication plan that you've put together. So I feel confident with the communication plan that voters will be informed, adequately informed, and not be confused. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask for clarification publicly. This is for the November 18th and the December 16th for these voters, correct?
Correct, it's through the end of the year.
Okay, and then what are we doing tell us about the timeline for the precinct cards and notification.
Sure. I do have a slide about that in the director's update.
Okay, great.
But we do have an upcoming mailing that we have to do, and they will be included with those special precinct cards for SC 35 will be included in that.
Okay.
So
great.
we're hoping by the end of the week that's done.
And the format of the cards, I mean, I understand you're going to show us, but just to ensure that they understand this is just for this SD 35 special only, because they've got the overlapping piece of it. So for however the cards are designed, they probably need to ensure that people know that they vote on November 4th here and November 16th here. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That we're not changing them for the PSC and municipals.
Yeah, that was what we were trying to avoid, was any confusion with the post office on when they receive their mailers, because they may get one before the other and think, oh, that's for this election. So, yeah, we'll work on a way to properly communicate so that they're aware that this is specifically for SD 35 on November 18th and not for November 4th.
And then per usual, we'll have the signage at the other locations.
That is correct.
All those kinds
Yes,
of
ma'am.
things. Great. Any other questions or comments on these precinct changes? Are we okay? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Debbie.
Speaking of having the signage at the old locations, I would ask, and I know that thanks to Beth, she went to every single precinct last time, but I know that the precinct that I was co-located, the signage was at the building, not at the road, for my old precinct. I would request that the signage be at the road that leads to the precinct itself, if it is a ways. Away.
Are you
for-
referring to the notice at the old facility or the notice
Yes,
at the new
yes,
facility?
I'm sorry, yes, at the old facility.
Okay.
So that, for example, Shallowford Falls has quite a long road that leads you into the elementary school. So by the time you get into the elementary school, up to the building to see that you're not voting there, it would have been a lot smarter to put it at the entrance of that road than it would at the building. Is
Sure.
that-
They're supposed to put it at the road. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
okay.
I'll double check with them just to make sure everyone's on the same page, but
Okay.
that's the common practice is to put it where
At the-
everyone would see before they got out of their
Okay,
car.
all
Yes,
right,
ma'am.
good, just double checking.
Is there any objection to making a motion to approve both of these precinct changes together?
I make a motion to approve the two proposed precinct changes.
Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor? The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We're speeding along, everyone. All right. We've got an old business item. Debbie, this is your amendment, so I will let you have the discussion on this one.
Thank you. Might help, I guess, if I were to put a copy of that up on the screen, but it might not be readable from back here. Just going over the amendment, it is to clarify a bylaw that we actually already have, that was not descriptive of an entire situation that we experienced this year when our two new board members had yet to be appointed prior to us in our bylaws requiring an election in July. So through Robert's Rule of Order, I did add a couple of items from Robert's Rule into the amendment just for clarification purposes. And I clarified the meaning of a particular phrase that was within that existing bylaw. So those are the basic changes. Why I haven't gotten support on this, I don't know. Hopefully I have support on it this time around, because it totally makes sense that we need these clarifications. It doesn't change anything. It just gives us a clear, precise description of what happens, notwithstanding, which is where it ended, and it clarifies what happens in the case of appointments not being made. So with that, I would like to make a motion to approve the proposed bylaws as written, since I received no proposed amendments to my amendment.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I will open this for discussion. Correct, Daniel? Great. So is there discussion on the amendment? For me, I just feel like we are not in a place to make this amendment, mostly because item 4 really puts us in a situation where the board would be on hold in terms of making their board positions based upon when the appointments were made. So that's going to be my rationale, not for, for voting for this. I also feel like we have the otherwise necessary clause. It doesn't really require us. We can hold elections like we are today at any time. We don't actually have to, by clarifying them, we're narrowing that definition of otherwise necessary, which I don't believe is necessary. So that's my comments. I don't know if anybody else has comments.
Just for the public, I will read what number 4 actually says. It does not prevent us, if the majority of the board wants to hold an additional election, if there's vacancies or some other death, et cetera, it doesn't change your ability to do that. It just clarifies. So what number 4 says, further changes in board membership do not disrupt the continuity of officer terms. However, when changes are imminent or pending, other officer elections should be deferred until the full board is properly constituted to ensure equitable participation in the selection of leadership. The reason that clause is in there is because we elected a board to serve for 2 years without the input of our 2 new board members. I believe it is their right to elect the officers that will be serving during their tenure, their 2-year tenure. Well, they have 4 years, but serving the first 2 years. It does not prohibit you from calling another election. And Daniel, you can give input on that, but I believe that is correct.
Yeah, if you want, I think that, I think the first statement in 4 is correct. I think the only risk with the second half of 4 is just the second clause says when changes are imminent or pending, elections should be deferred. That does a sort of, those are pretty broad terms. Pending is one thing, but imminent is sort of broad. So we don't know. Let's use this year as an example. The board might not know. If July hits and the new members haven't been named yet, we don't know how long the legislature might take to act. So it could, you could go a while with people. And then the other question is the term what do we mean by changes? If somebody says I'm not willing to serve anymore, or I have to step down, does that mean, is that a change? So it could, if you you could, whoever wants to say it's necessary can make the motion to go ahead and do it and say it's necessary, so that you'd still have the option to do it. That would be my only concern with is really in the second half of the thing, is just what are we talking about when we're saying imminent or pending? Because I don't know, because even on regularly scheduled, I'm envisioning a scenario where the appointments are supposed to happen in July, or really in June, so they can take office in July, but someone has to end their term in May for family reasons or whatever. Does that mean, well, we got elections coming in July, so you can't appoint a secretary until the new board, you know, it does, in theory, put some restrictions on it, but if the board is more comfortable with that, say, yeah, we'd rather wait until the new people come along in June. So that's my only, I mean, those are just the things I'm paid to worry about. It's like, what is that, how broadly is that defined?
So then, just a point of clarity, so deferred, that's what I'm getting hung up on. So if the delegation is taking a lot of time, so could the board go ahead and have an election, or is this just saying that we gotta wait till the delegation the legislative body makes?
They can still vote to hold an election. However, we only had 2 months left in the actual terms at that point. And it doesn't prevent us from holding an election. And Daniel, to your point, otherwise necessary is defined in number 2. Otherwise necessary shall include but not be limited to the delay of a new board appointment, in which case the election shall not be held until all new appointments are made and duly seated. And B, a vacancy caused by resignation, removal, death, or disqualification of an officer, in which case an election shall be held at the next regularly or special called meeting to fill the unexpired term. So those clarifications, in my opinion, are there. Jennifer, as far as your, I'm a hard no because of 4, that would have been really helpful information had you bothered to reply to my many different emails asking for input, because we could have worked on the verbiage of that. And there is nothing in this, in these changes, and Daniel, you didn't catch that one when you did the final edit on this go-round. So do you have recommended language change that makes it acceptable to calling a vote
So I don't, I'm thinking.
on number 4?
Right, I don't think I could be wrong.
Strike it?
I don't remember being asked to make any changes to it, but again, I'm not saying you can't leave it as is. I mean, I think the only, what I would say is, if you want to change it from should to may, that probably could solve it there, because then that gives you your full discretion. That's my concern, is you're saying it should be deferred, and that's not mandatory, it's not discretionary, it's kind of in between, and so you either want to, you know, you either want to be.
So you would change should to may, so it would read, when changes are imminent or pending, officer elections may be deferred. Okay?
I'd like to chime in. Based on my background, my experience, it's a bad idea generally to go from broad to narrow to address a specific situation like we had this summer. And Debbie, I fully appreciate the impetus why you want to protect new board members coming on, but they're currently protected in the current language because an election can be had at any time. So I don't think any change in language, we should go from broad to narrow. So I don't support any change to what we have already, because we can have elections whenever we want, and the interests of new board members will still be protected.
Okay?
I was going to chime in and basically say what Kendall said, but in addition to that, I don't want to be restricted by another party's decisions. So if the legislature decides to delay for whatever their reason is, I don't want to be beholden to our board business waiting for another party. And it might not be the legislator, it might be one of the political parties, it could be the commission chair at the time, like just hypothetical, it could be anybody. I feel like we should go based on our schedule, and then if that appointing body decides to delay for whatever their reason is, as Kendall said, we have the option to hold an election again like we're going to do today.
You still have that option, and if we make the amendment that Daniel suggested and change the word should to may, you have that option. There's nothing that restricts that in here.
So I guess I don't understand why an amendment is beneficial when we currently have the option to hold elections whenever we want to.
For clarification on things that aren't in the current bylaws. Unless otherwise necessary is pretty ambiguous. I'm not a lawyer, but it's ambiguous. And what is otherwise necessary? There is no definition of what is otherwise necessary.
I appreciate that. Do we have any other comments regarding the motion on the floor for the amendment? Any other questions? I would like to call to question, and all those in favor? Oh, sorry. All those opposed?
Clarification, are you asking for a vote on calling to question?
Oh, do I have to do that?
No.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Okay. The motion fails 3-2. We will move on to the next new business item, or we're going to move on to new business, which is, the next first item under that is the approval of the Vance in-person voting schedule for November 18th special election, Senate District 35, and I will pass that over to Michael to present that AIP schedule to us. Can everybody see the AIP schedule out there?
Yes, that's it. Okay, so for early voting for the special November 18th election, the office is proposing one location for 3 weeks at Taylor Bronner House in Smyrna. Typically, we would use Smyrna Community Center. However, when we were conversing with them, they were not available, and there were some street closings, some complications there. So luckily, they generously offered up Taylor Bronner House. We got out there as quickly as possible to just make sure that it was ADA accessible, the electricity was up to par for the equipment, and everything seems to be looking really good. We've already received some positive feedback on the location itself. The proposed schedule is all 3 weeks, Monday through Friday from 8 to 6, and then 2 Saturdays, November 1st and 8th, from 9 to 5. We are not doing Sunday voting. It's worth mentioning that this does fall during Veterans Day, and there will be no voting on Veterans Day.
Do we have comments or questions for Michael on this particular schedule?
No, I got a comment. No, yeah, I was about to, I'm glad you said about the Smyrna Community Center, because that would have been a better option. The parking at Taylor Bronner, did you look at that, how that's gonna affect? Okay.
Yes, it's my understanding that it's actually a better parking situation than Smyrna Community Center. I know we've had some complications with construction in the past and complaints. People, depending on where their GPS takes them on what side of the building, they weren't really sure where they were going, and it caused a lot of confusion for anyone that wasn't familiar with the community center. This one's pretty straightforward.
I'm familiar with that site, and there are 2 entrances, 2 side parking lots, well, 2 parking lots, one in the back and one on the side, and it is definitely more convenient.
And we'll have signs at the Smyrna Community Center if people accidentally go there, directing them to Taylor Bronner.
We can put signage up
Because
there.
I feel like some people will just assume it's there since it's usually there, and if we could just
Sure.
let them know.
Yeah,
that
we
would
can
be very
absolutely put up
helpful.
signage.
And this is only about a mile, right, from the Smyrna Community Center? So I think, at least for the feedback I got when I did sort of a poll among people.
Yes, it's very close.
Yeah, so that's
I
also,
just know people are going to be used to going to the same place every time, and if we could just let them know when they get there.
Yeah,
That's great.
I felt like it's not
Right.
far, so that's good if people do end up
Right.
there.
Michael, I mentioned this to you prior to the meeting, and Jennifer and I discussed last night my concerns for having a drop box at these locations, and my explanation for my concern is that this will be going on for 1 week during the November 4th election. People are very used to going to these advanced voting locations and dropping off ballots. After November 1st, there could be a real problem with them dropping off a ballot. They think their vote counted, when in fact it won't. And my dad always said, don't come to me with a problem without a solution. My solution to that, and what I am proposing, is that we have a ballot clerk assigned to a specific area that would be for either race, so that you have a set of eyes looking at the envelope that can clearly see that if it is for the November 18th election, it's good to go. If it's for the November 4th, it is not. Dropbox, you don't have that capability, and I think it will just be better for the voters, because as we know, sometimes voters do get confused on all these dates mandated here and there. And I think it could be problematic if we have a drop box, at least during that week.
And I think we did, after we had that conversation, and we all sort of were amongst ourselves having these conversations, I think the flyer was printed before, for this packet, before we all discussed that if we're
But
gonna.
we're getting ready to approve this with the drop box on here, so
Right,
I'm
no, we're gonna-
raising the issue.
Exactly, and we do need to take the Dropbox for Smyrna as we move into the next, I think we should probably have the discussion simultaneously about the AIP piece for November 4th, because that's why we would need to take the Dropbox off as well. So do you want to sort of explain what the amendment to the agenda was about with the AIP site? We'll sort of talk about both simultaneously.
Sure. So for the November 4th early voting schedule, there is the last week of early voting for November 4th overlaps with the first week of early voting for November 18th. When we went back and were considering our voters, we realized if we're not offering voting at Taylor Bronner House for that first week, anyone that shows up for SD 35 that has not voted for the PSC, or, depending on where they live in the municipality, they would have to travel to 2 different locations to vote. So the absentee team and I got together and we tried to figure out a way that we could make it work for that 1 week at Taylor Bronner House, having both elections going on at the same time. We had to kind of look at it from different angles, because it's not a huge space. It is a very nice space, but it's not a huge space. So we just wanted to be sure that we could set up the inside of the building, so it was easy flow for our voters. It wasn't confusing, but there may be folks that show up that have already voted. We're trying to look at it from every scenario to just make sure it's a seamless transition when they show up there to vote, whether it's for one election or both elections. So we decided to propose that 1 week of overlap, we will also have a separate setup for November 4th and a separate room for November 18th, just for that 1 week of overlap. And then on the 31st, at the end of AIP for November 4th, we'll close that equipment down, and then the remainder of 2 weeks, they could expand into both rooms. Well, it's really one room that we would divide into 2, but if they needed more space for the voters, we could expand out once the November 4th equipment is secured.
On the notifications that go to voters, will it state that there will be no drop box available?
That's what we're going to have to do, yeah. We're going to have to take a look at several conversations regarding the drop boxes, because per 382, we're limited to how many we can have per 100,000. And then if we have one there at Smyrna, that puts us over our limit. And then also if we don't, or if we do have one there, and we're also allowing them to drop ballots at all the other open that puts us over our limit there. So we're going to really have to dive down and figure this out and have an easy way to communicate what is available and what is not. Where can you take it? Where can you vote? All those things, because at the end of the day, we just want to ensure that every ballot is counted.
Right, thank you.
And we did talk briefly about on the outer envelope of the absentee by mail ballot that we were going to stamp or some sort of identifying mark for SD 35. Was
That's
that
correct.
something you were able to?
Yes, that's correct. I got with Marcus. He was able to come up with an easy solution. It was, at the time, we settled for, it's a label. It says red, it's in red, right? SD 35 or 35, something that just jumps out in your face so you know which ballot it is.
Great. And Daniel, do you want to explain a little bit sort of the legality, how, that we're in parameters to make this addition for November 4th and sort of the Dropbox rules?
Yes. So we'll just I'll start with the Dropbox rules on the, just because we're talking about SD 35. Yeah, I've got it here too. So what's tricky, you know, the way the statute is written and just with drop boxes is to say that you can have drop boxes at the lesser of the number of advanced voting locations you have, or one box per every 100,000 people in your county, active voters in your county. And so that puts, in a normal, this board has always kind of gone to the limit, which is 6. It's the 1 plus the additional, so you get 6. And what's happened is because the municipals, each city really feels like, and correctly, that it should have a drop box in its jurisdiction. This board voted a month or so ago to authorize the drop boxes to be at the 6 advanced voting locations that are in the cities. In the meantime, this new election was set. And so there's a thought that, well, we'd like to have a drop box there. But again, if you're accepting November 4th ballots at this new location, you can have as many advanced locations as you want, but you're still capped by that, you know, 1 plus the 5. So you couldn't add a box at Taylor Bronner, even though you're making it an advanced voting location, because that would put you in theory at 7 if you're letting people drop them in there. There's 2 ways to do it. You could either, as a board, say, well, we're just not going to have a drop box there and just use it. An option there is to make it under 382, you're allowed to just accept ballots there while during business hours and have a clerk there assigned to accept them. And that actually is specifically referenced in both the 385, which sets forth the AIP location thing. It says you can authorize them to accept ballots there as in 382. So you can do that. You can authorize during the hours they're open for people. So instead of having people just drop it in a box, you could have a clerk there that says, if you have a November 4th ballot you want to drop off, we'll just put it in this basket here. And you're just accepting ballots there, and they secure them like they would at any other location where people are dropping the ballots. That's not a drop box. The other thing is there is the option to add a drop box after the November 4th election date, because then you're just accepting them only for the SD 35. And if you get some that get put in the drop box that don't have the red label or whatever's going to be on it, you just know those are now too late, and they're not going to get commingled or anything like that. You just put them in a batch that said they were submitted late for November 4th. But so there's an option that if you wanted to set the drop box up at Taylor Bronner after November 4th, you could do that. I just would, because of the rules around, it says drop boxes have to stop accepting ballots at the end of the advanced voting period. And so there'd be a period from the end of Friday before November 4th, so Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, when you should not be accepting ballots at that location in a drop box, because that's technically it's supposed to be closed to those ballots. But you, in theory, should still be able to drop if you had a drop box, you should be able to walk in there and vote your November 18th ballot, or drop your November 18th ballot, because we're not in the closed window for that. So it just, to avoid, allegations that ballots were accepted that shouldn't have, my recommendation was do not have a drop box that first week, because you're exceeding the limit and you run into issues about accepting them during the November period when it's supposed to be closed for the November 4th election. But then you, as a board, you can authorize it to come in after November 4th, or you could just say, we're just going to leave it only as an additional location where ballots can be accepted by a clerk during business hours. And then just in terms of like the adding an advanced voting location to coincide and making Taylor Bronner, there was a request by, some local legislators and others to like, can't we have, a Smyrna location for November 4th? And you, as a board, are permitted, under the normal deadline, you would need to advertise 2 weeks before advanced voting starts. Well, for November 4th, that's tomorrow, so you would have needed to advertise the location 2 weeks ahead of time. But the statute specifically says in 385 that you can add additional places, and that when you add additional places, you should just advertise them as soon as possible. So I think the board's, after having I've had some discussion with individual board members, and I think that what I was hearing from individual board members was if we do this proposed solution of having that 1 week of overlap, you can publish that notice and have that 1 week before the November 4th, that last week of advanced voting for the November 4th election, you could have people come in and vote for both, and you just had to have 2 separate check-ins and 2 separate, you go vote for your November 4th election here, turn in your card, come right back around, check in for the November 18th election, for SD 35 and vote on that and turn that card in. And so that way there would be the convenience for those people in Smyrna who wanted to vote at the Taylor Bronner House for both elections that 1 week. And then after that, this motion is also just to authorize that Taylor Bronner House to remain the AIP election for the rest of that period. So there would be the Taylor Bronner House, and there would be the main office where you could vote early for the rest of the November 18th period. Clear as mud?
Clear as mud. I do not think we are looking at opening the election office for early voting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, yeah, it would just be Taylor Bronner.
Okay, that's fine, and that's up to the board.
I think we are trying not to put additional confusion into the main office.
Sure.
If I'm correct, Michael.
That's correct.
I like the idea of being able to provide the convenience and accessibility to our voters. I think that this is a very good workable scenario for both our staff and our voters. It seems like everybody seems to have come to agreement that this is a acceptable solution in what's not an ideal situation. I think the real key is going to be communication to our voters and our staff, so that people are appropriately educated, especially if in the beginning of AIP, if people start to come to the other sites wanting to vote for SD 35. We sort of have to think about it on both ends, what this looks like. But as far as the AIP schedule for November 18th, that looks good to me. I just think we need to remove the drop box. And then I also support adding the extra week at Taylor Bronner House for November 4th. So that's where I stand on those two.
I have a question, clarification. Are you saying that you do not support the drop box in that last week of AIP at Taylor Bronner?
My microphone is sticking. There we go. All right, so I think what Daniel was talking about, which is essentially we couldn't start to have the drop box until after November 4th, which I think it sort of muddies the water if we're talking about communication on a flyer, right? Drop box available starting X date. However, 21-2-382 allows us, as a satellite location, to still receive the absentee ballots via a deputized clerk. So somebody can still walk in their ballot and hand that to a human who will check that ballot in, also confirm that it has the proper sticker label on it that it's for SD 35. So I think that we will still be accepting absentee ballots for SD 35 for the whole 3 weeks at that site, just not via a drop box.
Right, but the public won't know that.
We can make sure that the public does know that.
We need to say that. I mean, given this is the hand we've been dealt by our governor.
Sure.
And I think we're making the best of it. Ideally, we would not have overlapping elections, but this is our hand. And I think that this is a reasonable solution.
I also think maintaining the integrity with the absentee by mail ballots is really crucial from a sort of litigation standpoint too, and risk. So I think by having a person that's accepting the ballots, as long as we have the actual communication, I think we are sort of putting both protecting the voters and and the election itself.
Thank you.
I like everything about this, considering all the other options are less favorable to the voters. We have discussed options where, you know, Taylor Bronner would only be available for the special election, which means people could possibly have to go to 2 different places on the same day. That's definitely not ideal. No one wants to go vote in 2 different places on the same day, so it is going to be confusing no matter what, but I feel like this is the best scenario for the voters. So I'm in favor of it. And thank you to everybody who's chimed in, because it took a while to get there, but I feel good about it.
I think as far as communication to the voters, the sheet, the flyer could say ballot drop-off, not drop box. So that would be an easy way to bridge that gap. I agree that not having drop box on there, people aren't going to know. You could even do a sign that says ballot drop off outside the precinct, as long as it says drop off. This isn't good for any of the voters in Senate District 35 or our election workers. And I think this is, adding the extra week is really the appropriate way to deal with it. But I am really adamantly opposed of having a drop box, because I think people can get very confused. So that's where I am.
Reggie, did you have any thoughts you wanted to add before we?
No, I think everybody said, along the lines of what I'm thinking is just, it's accessibility, and it's, given the options that we got, and we have to go ahead and push forward. We have a lot of workers that's ready to roll up the sleeves, get it done. Education's going to be a big piece, and, in that communication there, we should, if we need to use, resources by the state, we should, use them, but given where we're at, this is the best approach, so I'm in favor for it.
Daniel, can you help us with the wording for this motion? Sure. I think we want to take both AIPs, and then we'll circle around to Debbie's discussion on communication, right? Do you want to?
Yeah, well, it isn't really a difficult motion. It is a motion to add the precinct, the second week of advanced voting for,
It's the third week.
third week, sorry. See, I'm confused. For an additional location for the PSC race to accommodate voters, and that it will offer a ballot drop-off, not a drop box. And I think those 2 items are then combined, correct?
Well, and we have to motion to approve the AIP schedule for November 18th in conjunction with the additional week, correct? Daniel, do we need to take those separate?
Yes. Well, here's what my recommendation, just to make it clear on the record, would be to get a motion to approve the AIP schedule for November 18th, including including the location is the Taylor Bronner House,
Okay.
and to authorize that as additionally as a place where absentee ballots can be dropped off, an additional registrar's office essentially under 382A. So that's one motion, because that way you're adopting the AIP schedule and you're authorizing it as a drop-off place, not a drop box, but that's what the 382A is. So that's the motion if anybody wants to make that, and then you could add the additional week now that once you've established that.
Okay, great. So does somebody want to make that motion?
So move.
Great. And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded to approve the AIP schedule for November 18th with the absentee by mail ballot drop-off at that location. All those in favor? And the motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And then we have part 2. Does somebody want to make a motion on that?
Can Daniel repeat that again?
So, And the second part of the motion would be to add an additional advanced in-person voting site for the third week of early voting for the November 4th election to take place at the Taylor Bronner House.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded to add a AIP location for November 4th. All those in favor? And the motion passes 5-0 to add the location. Thank you.
Can I throw in one wrinkle here?
You may.
And Michael rightly pointed, and I had seen this, but he reminded me of it. You are by law, it says, a board of registrars or absentee ballot clerk shall establish at least one drop box as a means for absentee mail. So you could do it at the main office if you want, but you gotta have at least one drop box for the November 18th
Okay.
election.
Yeah, nicely
Would it-
done.
Would it make sense? I mean, I'm open to whatever feels like the simplest solution. So is it simpler to keep the drop off at Taylor Bronner for 3 weeks and add a drop box in the main office for consistency, so we're not switching it up in the middle of absentee voting? Is that the easiest option?
What's your team's preference, Michael, you think on that? Because I agree with that, but I want to know how you guys see the complication of that.
Well, I mean, I think the law says we have to do a drop box somewhere, but I'm just saying, like, one option is to go from drop off in week 1 to drop box week 2 and 3 at Taylor Bronner, which is, I mean, one option, or,
And it still has overlap on Monday and Tuesday,
right.
so that's where it becomes problematic of
Or
monitoring
just
it.
keep drop off at Taylor Bronner for all 3 weeks of advanced voting, and then add a drop box in the main office to fulfill that legal requirement of having the drop box.
I think the consistency.
We could just leave the drop box in the main office from the 4th. We can lock it for the 2 weeks prior, or, right, 2 weeks prior, and then just reopen it. So
Yeah,
you would
that's what I
have
was-
to, the only reservation I have about that, there's no easy answer to this, but the only reservation I have is so many people are so used to advance voting here, there, at the main office. I'm afraid people will be showing up there thinking they can vote as well.
But
if
you
we-
can submit your ballot on that Monday and Tuesday. You can submit your ballot at the main office till 7 PM. on
You
that
can
Tuesday.
hand it, you can't
Exactly.
put it in a drop box. Drop boxes
Right.
are dead on Friday.
Exactly, but if we have proper communication, I feel like the staff would be better able to manage that.
Than doing
Than
the Taylor
exactly.
Barn. I agree. I'm just worried about the total confusion that.
So Daniel, what does the law say, does it? as far
Says
as
you
location?
shall have at least one drop box, and it says it shall either be at the main office or it shall be at one of the advanced.
Okay.
So basically, we have the choice of the main office or the Taylor Bronner House.
I mean, we are putting ourselves and the staff and the voters in a confusing situation because we were required to hold 2 elections 2 weeks apart. And unfortunately, we're stuck in this position. So there's not a perfect answer, but I'm just venting, but I will go with whatever feels like the simplest solution for the voters' convenience and for the staff's ability to process it all.
I think the main office is going to be a lot less confusing than having it, not having it at Taylor Braun. And once we get into the paper that I wrote as far as communication, to Kendall's point, communication is going to be king on this whole thing. I think there's ways we can conveniently communicate it to the voters as a whole. So,
I agree. I think the drop off for 3 weeks have the consistency, and the end result is it's consistent, and we still get to collect the ballots. So I think that's a great idea, and we should stick with that.
And you're not inconveniencing those voters who want to vote in both elections at the same
Exactly,
time.
at the same place.
Yeah.
And if you show up with a ballot on Monday, November 3rd, or Tuesday, November 4th, and you go to put it in the drop box and you're at the main office, they can then just send you to the window to actually hand it in. And so that also doesn't inconvenience those few overlap voters that may be coming into the drop box.
We'll have to make sure we have a clerk there, Michael, because there isn't always one there. I know we're supposed to have one, but there is not always one there. So that's kind of critical.
Yeah.
Okay, so Daniel, do we need a motion for this new?
Yeah, I
decision?
would move to add a drop box location for the SD35 election to be located at the main office, in the main election.
So moved.
Should we add to the AIP list of locations, the main office, drop box only in big bold letters?
Yes.
Yes. On the
So the
actual flyer.
location on the flyer, so it would say Election Main, 955 Roswell Street, drop box only, no in-person voting.
Would you
Our
like to amend-
communications
Would you like to
team.
amend your motion to include that?
I amend the motion to
Would include that, yeah.
to include no in-person voting, drop box only at
To-
the main office location,
To the
flyer.
Flyer.
to the flyer. Yep,
Basically, it would have another box, I think, on here that would
Yes.
say drop box only.
Yeah, it
On
would
this
show
one.
that,
Because this is the November 18th one.
oh,
That
well,
there's already a drop box in November 4th at the main office.
right.
So
Okay.
what we'd be doing, we're adding the drop box for SD35. So it's this flyer that we need to clarify that this is drop off and that we have a drop box, no in-person voting at the main office.
Yep.
I'm sorry, voters.
yes, we're very
Voters
sorry.
in the universe, we're very sorry. I think the motion still stands.
Someone needs a second.
need a
the amendment,
second.
you know.
Second.
Great. All those in it's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor? The motion carries 5-0 to add a drop box for SD35 at the main office.
Whew, I'm exhausted.
You're exhausted? All right, your turn, though. Your item.
I know. Okay. So, as I shuffle through, I gave you all a copy of points to ponder for a discussion on a communication plan for SD 35 election. I don't think we can communicate enough on this election. And so you all have a copy of it. The purpose is to avoid potential voter confusion. And how do we get that message out? A, that there's even an election. Who's eligible to vote in the special election? Michael, didn't you say there was like 31,000 active voters in SD 35?
Total?
Yeah, total active voters.
Total active for SD 35 is 73,000.
What?
It was, Dobbins 01 was the figure that I gave you. Total active for Dobbins 01 was 2,000.
Where did I get the 31,000 from? 71,000?
70, almost 73,000.
Wow, okay. Well, that changes some of this. May. So, we have 73,000 eligible voters. When and where can they vote? And then how do we avoid ballot confusion between holding two simultaneous elections? I think we just covered that portion of it by dealing with this how we did.
Hold on
Then-
one second, Debbie. Hey, Brett. We have a new agenda item, so hold that one for now. Thanks.
Huh? No. Okay. Then we really need to determine our key messaging. What is that? Only registered voters that reside in Senate District 35 may vote, right? That, one would think that is common, but when you're showing up to vote for another election in that area, especially advanced voting, you might be confused thinking you can vote when you can't, and vice versa. I think we need to make it clear that SD 35 voters must vote twice if they want their vote to count in the PSC and in the SD 35. So it will require them to actually show up and vote twice. Advanced in-person voting, I think that we kind of beat that horse. Separate absentee ballot applications, I think that's critical because I think a lot of people will assume that a rollover absentee ballot, that they will just get an automatic absentee ballot. They will not, correct, Michael?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
On the, they will have to register separately. They are, rollover absentee ballot voters don't roll over for a separate election.
That's the way it's supposed to work if
Okay.
Jarvis is working properly.
Okay, so we have to communicate that. I think that's kind of critical. It's out of the norm for what people normally expect, and I think we dealt with the Dropbox issue. So that's, a lot of this we've already done.
And Debbie, on the first point, on the first bullet on the second page, Smyrna Community Center is now updated to Taylor Bronner Park, just for the public.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that
It's for the
was,
purpose of the public
I
reading.
put that in there as a placeholder because I couldn't remember which location
I
it was.
just wanted to
so-
make sure the public reading that, know that it's
Good
now been
point.
updated.
Yes, thank you. That is, the first bullet on the second page needs to be changed. And we will, I said stamped on the 35 envelopes, they will be a label instead, so that one's been checked off. I think it's critical that we do a public statement and a press release. So I don't know who's going to write it, whether that should go to Ross. We give him input. Michael, you and Ross gel that together. We look at it, we approve it. But I think we definitely need a press release to go out ASAP on this once we approve all of these nuances. Website and a QR code. This really needs to be easy to find. Right now, it is not easy to find any of the election stuff. And Jennifer and I talked about having the SD 35 actually on our landing page. I don't know if you can do that with the restriction on how the website is actually set up, but either it has its own landing page and we do a QR code that takes people right there, or we put it front and center on the website landing page. Social media, I think at a minimum, we post something new, reminders, whatever, at least every 3 to 4 days. And why do that? Because Facebook doesn't update. immediately. So it's there one day and somebody sees it, but if somebody joins in tomorrow, there may be additional posts and they never see it. So we need, more is better in this situation. And I also highly recommend that we get Ross to do a short video, whether it's a minute, probably 2 minutes to explain the whole thing. The video can be shared on social media, it can be shared on the website, we can flag it on YouTube, it can be easily distributed. Do we have texting capability yet through the app, Michael?
Are you referring to the Cobb County app?
Uh-huh.
I'm sure they have that capability. We haven't used it yet, but we can get with Ross to find out if that's an
Okay.
option for us.
If we do have that, I think texting would be a great way to get that information out there to the, what I thought was 31, which is 73,000 voters. And one thing to consider that we've never done is just a quick educational WebEx. Anybody who is concerned, doesn't understand what this election is about, do a short WebEx. And that could be recorded, and again, you could use that video for educational purposes on, or stream it live on Facebook. That might even be better for the younger voters. And I'm not going to recommend TikTok, but TikTok's always a great way to communicate as well. I don't think that's one of the ones we're using, but it might be. I also recommended to Jennifer that we have signs that we put in every single one of the precincts, the 21 precincts, for Election Day on November 4th. Just a small notice that says, hey, voters, check your My Voter page. If you're in Senate District 35, you need to vote. I think we could also have flyers and handouts at all the AIP sites for the November 4th election, which all of this, of course, would be consistent with the Tammy's design code, and so everything looks the same. I think we might want to hold a press briefing potentially during the November 4th election, towards the end of it, to say, hey, next week we're going to encounter both elections being held at the same time, and just a quick down and dirty, here's what's going on. I think we should prepare a press packet to give the different outlets. It wouldn't hurt if we collaborated with the municipalities, which I think the only two are Austell and Powder Springs, right?
Is Smyrna, I know it's Smyrna, but is there any other?
There may be a piece of Marietta if we're talking about diamonds. So.
Marietta's in it too, in part of, oh, yeah, it is, yeah. So there's three.
Five people in Marietta?
We're gonna check that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be a very good idea to get the municipalities put something then on their website, because they're their voters as well, right? So coordination there. And that's basically it. That's all I had time to do a brain dump on. I think there's far more that probably needs to be here.
Well,
So,
Debbie, I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
I love the tactical list, and I would love to take a vote on it to make sure that we put it in place.
That's probably a good idea. Michael, did anything I say sound out of bounds that we couldn't handle, or?
I mean, I think this is a good plan. However, I'm not really sure realistically how we could accomplish all of these things in the timeline. I'd have to get with Tammy and Ross to really sit down and crunch this. So at a glance right now, it's great information. I just realistically, I don't think we could do everything here.
Could you-
Especially with Tammy as a party of one. We do have an intern that assists her, but it would be, it's going to be a heavy lift on us to try to do something this elaborate where we could pick some of these things and really focus on clear, simple communications to alleviate the confusion, but, you know, this would be a lot for us.
What are some of the things that would be kind of difficult to do if you, at a glance?
Well, one, the website itself is kind of difficult because of the functionality. I did have Tammy kind of play around with the settings, and she was able to make it a little better than what it was before. You know, some of the easy things we could do are, you know, QR code signage.
Social media.
But, you know, having a whole press release and we're getting in, Tammy already kind of has a plan for communications. I think we need to dial that in to kind of mesh with some of these ideas. I think that would be the way to go. But, you know, like a 30-minute WebEx for candidates, and these things are just kind of.
That's something the board can do.
Okay.
Well,
No.
I mean, if you advertise it as a meeting,
Yeah.
but I honestly was having a little bit of the same reaction. I was like, these are all great ideas, and if you wanted to adopt it as a policy, like these are some priorities we think staff should look into and like try to get it. But I would hesitate against saying this is a policy that staff has to follow in terms of like, you got to do all of these things.
I think they're recommendations,
Yeah, yeah.
and I haven't seen Tammy's communication plan on press releases. So if you have that and can send it over, that would be great. I think Ross and his department can probably check a lot of these boxes as well. So is it possible that, Jennifer, maybe we create a committee of two that gets with Ross and Tammy or you, Michael, or whoever, and sit down and say what's doable, what isn't? Because I think that, unless I'm wrong, I can tell you, I've lived here since 1986 and voted every election, and I never recall 2 elections going on at the same time. And
Well, I think that, you know, communication has to be paramount. You know, it's going to have to be a priority because of the special case. We haven't seen Tammy's, her plan to get it out. Let's see, a lot of these items, I can see what you're saying, but I think as long as the end state is fulfilled, making sure that everybody's, aware, and because, you got to pound this stuff in people's head, because of the time, and it needs to be somewhere they can see it and digest it. So if we could see what, the plan is, I think we could kind of like go from there. But like I said, again, the end state, making sure everybody's educated on what's about to go down.
Sure, and once I have a chance to kind of digest this with the team, of course, I don't want to co-sign on anything without talking to Ross and his team first. But, if we just had a little bit of time to review this information and kind of maybe find a healthy in-between, I think that's achievable. But, like I said, we have to have those conversations first before I'd be comfortable with saying we're going to do this.
I'd like to chime in. When the team reviews these, Michael and Tammy, I would just like to ask, and I'm sure, Tammy, you know this as a communications professional, I want to make sure that we focus on different formats, something auditory as well as visual. Not everybody, receives information or retains information the same way. And when it comes to visual, I'd love to see a graphic, an infographic thrown in there. Not as many words. People, attention spans are short. In a video, W mentioned maybe like 2 minutes. In my opinion, that's way too long. 30 seconds to 60 seconds, I think, is long enough for people's attention spans. But I would just love for whatever you guys prioritize to kind of distribute the information in more than one format.
Do you like the idea of the video, just shorter?
Yes.
I think it's a great way to reach out to people. They're a lot more inclined to watch a video than read a document, so, yeah. So 30
A
seconds,
short video, yes.
yeah.
Yes, last week I had a conversation with Tammy, kind of when we were reviewing the website and what I wanted to see as far as access to the upcoming election instead of our users having to click, 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 just to find something. We did mention, you know, a short video or something. That's something communications has helped us in the past with, I don't know if it was a TikTok or something like that, but they would definitely be able to facilitate and help us with that creativity side. Tammy has a lot of ideas. She already has a
Great.
lot of posts created. Though, you know, though she may have created this before November 18th was a thing, I think we can still find the way to have those things that she had planned and mesh it with something like this. But videos and graphics were one of the things that I said, you know, we need to have the words on one thing, but we also need to provide something for those that aren't going to sit there and read 20 lines. They just want to see an image, boom, right in your face, and then they can download that information right then and there. So we will definitely be working on these things, but like I said, we just have to have a chance to digest the information and go from there.
One last thought. Do we have, and I'm not sure, do we typically link voters to sample ballots from the Secretary of State's website? Because I find that critical. I've been a resident in Cobb for a long time. They used to have those big yellow sample ballots at the libraries in different places. I'm not sure if they have those. So I just use the Secretary of State's website to check my sample ballot for every election. I think that will be helpful if we
Sure.
can include
They are
that.
available on your MVP page. We
Right,
post them
we-
to our website.
Okay, great.
And we also provide them in person at the polls too. So we
Great.
can make it more accessible for sure, like right there on, somewhere on the homepage. That's what we're trying to work on, but they are available on our website.
Yeah, I don't
Thank
think
you.
we post an actual picture of the actual ballot. Tate was just posting basically a spreadsheet of who's on the ballot. At some point, I prefer that what you get from the MVP, where it, one click and it pulls your ballot down. But that is important.
So to kind of sort of bring this around, I think as we've all sort of been having individual conversations with each other about SD 35, I think one of the main concerns that sort of everybody shared was communication, which is why Debbie really put this together for us to look at and talk about, which I think this is a crucial conversation that we need to be having more of. Obviously, this is a particularly confusing situation for our voters. So I think, you know, one of the things, I really like Debbie's idea of maybe sort of putting a committee of maybe 2 folks from this board together to just network and communicate with the office on what this plan is going to flesh out and look like and see where we can plug in and be of assistance. You know, there's some little things I just want to, you know, point out that it takes a team to look at. But for instance, this is a voter guide that I pulled right from the front. You know, it's sitting up on the table over there, and it's got all of our 2025 elections on it. This probably either needs to get pulled or get a sticker that says SD 35 on it, right? Like, we have a lot of little things that we have to think about in terms of making sure that our voters are aware of SD 35, even if it's just a QR code that are you in SD 35? We have a special election, and it takes you to a landing page. We need to think about how to sort of simplify and message this, and I think what Debbie's got here is incredibly crucial. These are the kinds of things that I think are what I'm feeling this 5-member board wants to start to see, is really understanding for each election. We're going to post 3 times a day. We're going to have a graphic that does this. We want to start, I think, if I'm hearing everybody, we all really want to understand what that looks like for each election so that we also can get that out to municipalities, we can get it out to the parties, we can have other organizations and partner with other people to help us. Yes, Tammy is a party of one, but there are a lot of sort of organizations that, even the libraries, for instance, like Kendall was saying, that had ballots posted, there are places that we can reach our voters that aren't just through our specific methods. So I think with that said, I know, Stacey, you had thought about a vote, but maybe we could do a vote on a committee that would work on this plan what is that, does that work? Something where there's two of us sort of assigned to flush this out with the office? Or do we want to vote on specifics that how do you see this, Debbie?
I think I mean, I totally agree with Michael. He needs to meet with Tammy, see what's doable, what isn't doable, what's already planned that can be modified or used already. Your graphics, a lot of them, she's got the graphics down. The message might change, but she doesn't have to redesign it. The video, I think, is kind of critical, and Ross, Ross was a investigative reporter for WSB for years. He can pop out a video pretty quick, and he knows how to do it. I think the video is a great way to educate on a whole lot of points quickly. So pick your top communication, but I do think the board feels like we need to kind of go a little over the top on communicating that for this election.
And I have a question too. I'm looking at Debbie's list here. I like the evaluation and reporting. Since it's a unique election with this special election, do we have like for lack of better terms, like a CSAT survey, where if we do an after-action review, what are the detractors, promoters, what could we approve on? Do we have something like that already in place?
Each division has their own after-action where they meet amongst each other and then compile the results, and then it gets with the director. Specifically in this instance, not necessarily for this. But like I said, we can come to the table and talk and figure something out.
Okay.
You want me to make just a quick, if you just change this from the board's expectations and actions and just say suggestions and recommended actions on page 1, then you could, and then if you wanted, somebody could ask for a 2-person committee to help, prioritize which suggestions, with staff, work with staff to prioritize. Just, those are some options. That way, if you wanted to make a specific motion, but not make it mandatory, you know what I mean? And then authorize a committee to work with staff to prioritize the ones that are practical or something.
I think that sounds like a workable solution.
Yeah, well, I think it's really important to get what our expectations are. If you have to whittle some of it back, it's totally understandable, not that you have that much to do here in the next month. But I do think our expectations, I'm not sure we've ever stated our communication expectations.
Right.
So I'm happy to change any verbiage, but I do think it's important to call a vote that we all agree that we need to take a look at all of this and do what we can and work together to decide what are the most top priority items we should do to make sure that the entire board, or at least the majority of the board, agree with this.
Would you and Reggie want to work together on? I feel like, Reggie, this is your Senate district, correct?
Yeah, it
Sure.
is. It is.
So I feel like that might be a
Oh, you
good,
live in 35?
Yes, I do.
Do you know where to vote?
Yep.
because I feel like that might be a good, so we can take the motion to sort of adopt this as the expectations, and then Debbie and Reggie would work on this sort of as a committee to kind of refine it with Michael and see what we can put out.
Yeah, that's fine, and I think it's also really critical that we get this information to the parties as soon as possible, because they're gonna be out door knocking soon, I'm sure, making phone calls, that kind of thing, and hopefully they will share our message, not their own, because I think it'll be confusing to the parties as well.
And I liked your idea of them using the municipal websites as well, so that's, you
Yeah.
know, that's something like, we could make that contact, for instance, so,
Yeah.
Reggie.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have a motion, do we want to accept Daniel, you want to word that for us? Or do you have it, Kendall? Sorry.
I think I can handle it.
Okay.
I got my law degree on TV, but didn't pass the bar. Madam Chair, I move that we approve this recommendation from the board for evaluation, and that we form a committee of two being Reggie and myself, to work with Tammy, Michael, and Cobb Communication to come up with an overall plan.
Thank you for that motion. Is there a second?
A second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor? And the motion carries 5-0 to establish a committee and work on communication expectations for SD 35. Thanks, everyone. Next up, let's see, where are we at? Number 2, actually, on new business. We've got the Board of Elections and Registration meeting calendar to amend. I think we just have 6 dates that we need to add, just 6, 6 minor dates. Brett, do you have the calendar? Great. I think, Brett, we need to put page 2 up there, yeah. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the meetings and what we've got on the calendar? We're talking about doing all 6 of them at the main office, both, obviously election night, pre-certification, and certification, and then the last 3 are italics, assuming that we would have the runoff. I believe there's 6 candidates that are qualified, Michael?
Yes.
Correct? So most likely we'll end up in that runoff.
How many from each party?
I believe it's 4 Democrats, 1 Republican, 1 independent.
That sounds correct.
4 Dems,
One
1
Republican.
so we will only have a Democrat runoff, not,
It's a jungle.
It's,
oh, duh,
yeah, it's 6 candidates, so it's
6 candidates
very
total.
likely
There
to be
will
a
be a
runoff.
runoff.
There will be a runoff, right?
There will be a runoff.
We can just maybe say that it's tentative, but it's likely. But it is 6 candidates and it is a jungle.
If I were a betting woman, I would put money on a runoff.
We all will, yeah.
Right, hence we're putting it on the calendar. So if, for the public, you're looking at the 18th, 21st, and 24th, and then this December 16th, 19th, and 22nd. And just for the public record, those do butt up against the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. Thank you, Governor Kemp. And are there any questions or comments?
I would like to make one recommendation to tweak this a tiny bit, just for the purpose, for the convenience of board members and maybe even the public. For the pre-certification and certification of each of these, which is November 21st and 24th and December 19th and 22nd, I would love it if we can make those 4 o'clock meetings instead of 3 o'clock meetings. We have a legal obligation to have those before 5 to certify and complete the pre-certification before 5 p.m. I don't see that being a problem if we start at 4, so we still fulfill our legal requirement.
I'm going to one-up you on that one.
Okay, let's do it.
I think we should send an email to the Secretary of State's office and the SEB and ask for an exemption on the pre-certification requirement for these meetings if our director will get us the documents that we get every meeting electronically prior to certification, that we not be required to hold these meetings. Just for this.
I mean, I would love to not hold them, but I don't know what
It's
we're
3
allowed to do.
different meetings that we're required to hold just because of this additional election.
I agree. I don't know what we're legally able to do.
He can only say no.
Mr. White?
Yeah, I'm looking at, I think my recollection is the pre-cert meetings are, my
It's a
recollection is.
rule. It's a rule.
It's a rule.
Yeah.
I do think for them to accept you, it would need to be an action by the SEB. I don't know when they meet, but I don't think that. I
They're
don't think-
meeting on the 23rd.
So if someone wants to propose that in advance, I just don't, because it's an exception to the rule, I don't think the Secretary of State
Take it,
has.
Debbie.
Debbie, I think we should do both. If you guys are okay with my recommendation, we still put it on the calendar and at the same time make that request, because it's a lot easier to remove something from the calendar than it is to last minute if we're not successful.
But I love that idea. Let's request it. I mean, it's an SAB rule, it's not in the law.
Right.
And I think it probably should have gotten struck down with the rest of it.
Yeah, and we could probably just get a letter of reprimand. Yeah, I mean, around the holidays, we're talking 1, 2, 3 separate meetings that, in my opinion,
Are you friends with anybody on the SCB that might be able to?
actually I am.
There you go. All right.
Look, we can
Take-
have those conversations.
Take it
yeah.
away, Debbie.
I will.
But you're talking about moving both the pre-cert and the
Yeah,
cert?
that's right. Well, I mean, this is just a proposal, and you guys can
This is
kind of-
only for this election. I'm asking for an exemption that we do not have to hold these pre-certification meetings. That rule was made, I think, for the counties who would not give board members any documents prior to certification. And, you know, being that I'm one of the ones that got the threatening letter to file criminal charges and have me removed, I was sensitive to not having documents, but I don't think that's a problem in Cobb.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't had that.
So-
And our record is 10 minutes on those meetings, FYI.
Right. So let's take it one at a time. So my suggestion is to change the 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock just for the special election, regular and runoff for pre-cert and certification. I'm totally open to discussion on that. It's just for our convenience, and I think we would still be able to make our 5 o'clock deadline.
Michael, staff, is 4 o'clock it's good for, it's much better for me professionally. But I also want to know that you think we can do what we need to do in that time window.
Deadlines are deadlines. I mean, we'll make happen whatever the board needs us to make happen.
Kendall, Reggie, thoughts on 4 versus 3?
Yeah. My mic is stuck. Okay. It's just the military and me, Murphy's Law. I would go with 3. I mean, that's just my opinion, Then to bump it up to 4, and then you got a hard hack at 5, right?
4 o'clock works for me.
I would do 3.
Just a heads up, just as some context, there's no deadline on the pre-cert. Like, you just have to have it before you have the certification meeting. So there's no hard out on pre-cert, so that one's a little safer, and as noted, it's never gone longer than 10 minutes, I don't think. And then also, in the past, if y'all recall, on the cert meetings, if we've had some longer meetings at certification, but if we get close to the 5 o'clock deadline, I usually try to chime in and say, hey, by the way, it's 4:45, you need to vote on the certification, and if we need to discuss this other stuff after. But yes, so those are both options as to.
And that's the piece I'm missing, because I don't have no historical data. You said, how long does it usually take?
I think truly our longest meeting was 12 minutes.
For the pre-certification.
Debbie,
For pre-certification.
For pre-certification.
The other one
Those
is a
are-
regular board, sorry. The other one is a regular board meeting for certification, which could be any.
But we will
That's
have had a
different.
regular board meeting 2 weeks earlier on both of these.
Correct.
So it's like, we
So-
really shouldn't have much business to conduct other than the certification for these 2
Yeah,
that are also on Thanksgiving week and Christmas week. So
What
I can say we shouldn't have a
yeah.
very packed agenda that week.
what pre-certification reports we've gotten in the past, and it's just so we can ask questions about them, is the numbered voter list. And if you don't know what that is actually a report from No Inc. We get them from both Jarvis and No Inc. that show the people that were checked in to vote. So hopefully those 2 reports match the number of ballots we counted. Easy peasy. And then we get the summary report, which is just each individual aspect of the election, advanced in-person, advanced by mail, day of. We get that information on a jump drive. What else? SOVC report. But that's a really long report that we don't really discuss a whole lot. It's individual data by precinct. She gives us a jump drive when we go home. So I don't know that we have to meet, and yeah, and maybe I can get that changed for these 3 days. And I'll get Fulton to side with me.
That would probably be key.
It would be critical. So,
So
okay, so that's what
I
that
think we
is.
can take a motion to, Stacy's got the suggestion on the floor to move the pre-certification and the certification meetings, that's November 21st, 24th, and December 19th and 22nd, to a 4 PM time slot. Stacy, do you want to make a motion to that effect with the calendar?
Yes, I make a motion to move the pre-certification and certifications of the 2 special elections, which would be November 21st, 24th, December 19th, and 22nd, to start at 4 PM.
And then we also need to add all 6 dates to the calendar.
And adding all 6 dates to the calendar as shown on the proposed schedule.
Do we have a second for that?
I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any additional discussion on this matter?
I kind of agree with Reggie on keeping it at 3 o'clock just because that's when people are used to, but am somewhat ambivalent because I don't plan on having those meetings.
Right. All right. Let's, all those in favor? Great, the motion carries 5-0. The calendar's approved with the pre-certification and certification dates, times moving to 4 PM. Thank you all for that. All right, next item of new business is a stretch. Everybody stretch. And then we're going to pass over to Kendall for the public comment policy.
Hello. Let's see. I will go through Exhibit F in our packets. It is a policy for public comment. As a new member on this board, I was happy to see that we have public comment because we are not required to do so. And it's important to us, and I just thought it would be important to have procedures and a policy in place before a problem arises. And I'll just go briefly through the components. So under purpose, effect, and scope, it's just why, that's the why we're doing this. And the period, under policy, we want to encourage input from the public and as well as the press. And as you can see in Part 1B, it says that we value public comment, and we would like to hear from voters in our jurisdiction. And although we're not required to do so, we would love to have as much public comment as possible. And in policy 1C, it's a limited public forum, and basically that just puts parameters on the policy. It's not a free-for-all, where we don't want the public coming here telling us, providing comment on zoning or some other matter in the county that doesn't pertain to elections or registration. Let's see, Section 1D, put a time limit. I suggest that we start with a minimum of 30 minutes, and if we find that we have a hot topic and there are more commenters here that will not be accommodated by that time frame, I think we should have leeway to extend it for up to 60 minutes. In Section 2, to keep order, we would like to have commenters sign up. They will know what order in which they will present, and currently this draft says 30 minutes, but with speaking with the office staff, I would like to change that to 15 minutes. That will be adequate based on historical experience. That's the only change that I would like to make there. And I would love to continue having a virtual option, because I know that all voters cannot come on the premises. So I think it's important that we provide or have the flexibility to offer that virtual option. And let's see, time limits, section 2B. I would like to limit that to 2 minutes. In my professional life, I have watched countless public comment sessions, and I think a lot can be said in 2 minutes. And also, that allows us to accommodate hearing from more people within the allotted time. Let's see. 2C, comments directed to the board. The rationale behind that is to remain productive. We want to stay on task, and the ultimate goal is for us to consider feedback. So I think it's important to have commenters remember to present issues that we deal with, not necessarily personalities or people. Supplemental documents, section 2D, that is just for convenience so that we can all see. If you bring something for us to review, we would like for our council as well as staff to have documents so that we can all see. Let's see. Oh, yes. 2E, under public criticism. If there is something pertaining to the staff in the office, that this is not the proper place for comment to be made about that there's a procedure for that needs to be in writing and provided to our chair so that that issue can be addressed. It is not by any means to defer the public from bringing any of those concerns to light. This is just not the proper form to do that. Section 2F, decorum and disruptions. I'll just say good manners are always in style, and I think that's a two-way street. I would expect us to be respectful to commenters as they present, as well as I would ask that the public remain respectful and have good manners. Let's see. And should anything get out of hand or deemed to be out of hand under section 2G, termination, that allows us a way to terminate any remarks. Hopefully we won't ever have to do that, but that is there just in case we need to. And board minutes, currently we list, we have a section in there, you can see in our minutes that we do track public comment, but detail is not reflected for public comments, and I would just like to keep that practice, that we don't have to flesh out all of the comments, because we do have recordings of the meeting, so if someone wants to go back, that is available to the public as well as to us. Are there any questions?
I don't have questions, but thank you for putting in writing, and I'd say almost everything is what we are already putting into practice, so this is just a way of documenting what we already have. I can't think of many changes other than just standardizing the number of minutes of each speaker, because it hasn't been standardized in the past. So
Right.
Thank you for doing
And
that.
the rationale behind that, because I've seen in other settings countless public comments, and I just think it's always better to be proactive, where I have seen where there have been 30 people who want to comment
Yeah.
on issues. And it just, you hate to cut off people, but there has to be
Well,
some order. So,
I speak often at school board meetings, and as a public commenter myself, it's helpful when you prepare at home for what you're going to say to know how many minutes you have. Because, I know we're not talking about school board, but, school board, it's 2 minutes, and I practice and I time myself, so I know how much time I have. But if you go to a meeting and you don't know if that day it's going to be 3 or 5 or 2, it's
Right.
hard to prepare for that.
right, that's a great point. So it does force commenters to focus on what they want, and I think it's also respectful of everyone's time, other commenters as well. Any other feedback or questions?
Yeah, and on I believe it's 2C, yes, 2C,
Yes.
I believe I made the recommendation and maybe it got eliminated, I don't know. But the last sentence, speakers who direct comments to an individual or group of individual board members forfeit their remaining time. I think that that should be a little less kind of in your face. I believe it should read, may be required to forfeit their time, and leave that door open because it depends on why they're addressing. For example, if they wanted to
That's
tell-
acceptable, Debbie. I
You
think so.
do? Yeah.
I get
So
that.
if they wanted to congratulate 3 of you for something you did, they wouldn't be able to. They'd have to forfeit their time.
That's broad.
Yeah.
That's acceptable. Thank
So
you.
I think that should be a little less restrictive.
Debbie, can I, this is actually I think this is the version that was submitted for the packet, but then your changes were incorporated middle or early last week, some point last week. And that's not in the packet. And so,
Some of my changes are in here.
Right.
Maybe I made that one after the fact.
yeah, maybe you had two different, you had two.
Did I have 2 different changes? Okay.
Yes,
All right.
I see
Sorry.
your change. It's in, mine, not the one in the packet, but the one that I printed at home. Your comment is in there.
It is?
Yes, it
Okay.
reads, accordingly, all comments, wait, let me make sure. This is 2C. I'm sorry, hold on. Yes, it reads, speakers who direct comments to an individual or group of individual board members will be asked to refrain from these direct comments, and if they continue to do so, they will forfeit their remaining
Okay,
time.
okay.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
Okay, thank you.
So
Huh?
It does say if they continue to do so, they will forfeit their remaining time. So
Yes.
I'm good with that.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
good.
I'm just not
Yeah, yeah.
good with making that as a.
No, no, I
Right,
agree.
that's an excellent point. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I will say that several of their comments that Debbie made there were just, and a couple of formatting things like the underlining, I removed it. And so if the board wants to just adopt, and it was emailed to the board, I wish it had been sort of the one I started at the very beginning to stop and say, hey, let's put this version up on the screen, but then not everybody would have it.
Yeah.
But there were just a few little formatting and minor language. I think a few shalls were changed to wills or vice versa or something like that. But it's all in spirit the same. So if the board wanted to adopt the most recent clean version that was distributed to the board, you could do that.
Cool. I have a couple of quick things that we may need to
Yes.
adjust. So, and thank you to Deb for pointing out a few things for me that we probably need to contend with. So we do have the 15 minutes. We're all in agreement that it's the 15 minutes for the sign up, not the 30, right?
Yes.
For the sign up. And then where it says for the virtual public comment, our current process online is public comment presented virtually is limited to 12, and a sign up form is posted with the agenda at least 7 days before the meeting, and it closes at noon the day of the meeting. So it says here, will be posted on the election department website on the morning of the meeting by 10 a.m. My guess is we probably want to make it align with what we already have unless we want to go with what's here.
I will defer to Michael. What is the pleasure, or what's best for the office logistically?
Sorry. What is already done, I think, is sufficient. So I think stick with what's already out there. That's probably the best, in my opinion.
Okay. That's,
You mean on the
Speak up.
virtual? On the virtual?
the
Yeah,
virtual
because
option.
I forgot, I never did send my comments on the virtual.
Right, because I think we sort of went back and forth.
Yeah, 10 o'clock isn't probably, I think noon is better. I think that was actually Ross's cutoff time, not ours
Well, and it goes
originally.
up it goes up 7 days prior to the meeting, so it gives people some time. Right now, the way it's worded,
It's only day of,
right.
Yeah.
and as opposed to giving.
7 days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that it sounds like I'm getting a thumbs up for keeping it the same.
Just so you guys know the process, at noon it closes the day of the meeting, and then I have to actually email the comms and we need that time to do that. So that gives them 7 days to sign up too, which is good.
Okay. I just
So
feel,
I can,
Great.
if someone puts that in the motion to keep the current policy, I can change this language to match that.
okay, great. And then the other question that, back to the board minutes piece for a minute, where it says public comments will not be reflected in the meeting minutes. Are we saying that the actual do we need to reword that to be, there's going to be the list of, the current way we do it is we list the speaker's name and the subject matter that they spoke about. So we want to keep that the same? Or are you saying we won't have public comment listed in there at all?
I think, actually, looking at this, I think we may, instead of saying they won't be reflected, the details, we can say they may be reflected.
Okay.
Because broad topics are great, but I've seen where boards, they don't put it at all. They just put public comment, and they may say, they don't even put the number of people.
Well, and what we've been doing, right, I think we need to codify it, but I think that what we've been doing is we have the name
Right.
of the speaker. I think we say in person or virtual, and then we put like the broad, sort of like what their main topic was.
Like we might say, Beth Hendrickson spoke about election day shift work. But anyone who wants to actually hear what her full comments were can go and watch the live stream.
Right. I don't have a strong opinion on either. Any other feedback?
I just didn't know if we needed to make it clear that that's what we were, so that the staff has clear direction that we're going to continue with. I like the way they do it right now, where they basically list the names, say if it was virtual or in person, and the high-level topic. I think it's good to know who spoke at the meeting.
Okay.
I do as well, and it's searchable that way as well. So if you're looking for a topic in meeting minutes, I think especially, let's use Beth's comments today.
Right,
How many people have showed up here to ask for shift work?
right, and push
A lot.
notifications.
Exactly.
And it would take me a very long time to go through all the videos to find that info versus doing a word search for shift work, which would probably pull up all of those documents then if we just use it the way Deb's doing it now.
Yeah, and it happens to be the same way the Board of Commission posts their minutes, so we're consistent
The
with their format.
consistency would be great. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
and I think less is more in that case. Not less,
no, I understand the
not
detail.
people, but don't eliminate it, because I do think the topic
Is
is
useful.
probably good to document.
Okay. Well, what I'm hearing, I think, Daniel, can we change that section H to reflect?
We can say
the
that,
current-
the topic discussed during public comment will be reflected, but not the details, or something like that. We'll make it
Broad.
consistent with how we currently do it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then and then my only other question was, and I think you had this question too, so we're saying that the time period for public comment at regular scheduled meetings shall be 30 minutes. So that's, the amount of speakers that we will accept will be based upon it being 30 minutes?
Correct.
Okay. And then we can decide if we want to, how does that?
Right, if the board, if the office comes and says, hey, we have 2 more, then that's reasonable. If we have
Okay.
25 more, maybe not.
Leaves it open.
It leaves it open so we can decide. Like, if it's a hot topic, we may want to sit here and listen to 40 people.
Okay.
Um,
What's everybody think about that, the way that's set up?
You know me, I'm a huge proponent of freedom of speech, so I think more speech is better. So I am fine with leaving the whole thing at 60 minutes. It's rare that we get that many speakers, but we have had,
We have, yeah.
and we have had closed down the number who wanted to sign up, so. But you left an option in there to extend it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, which I think is good. I just wanted to clarify that for
Right.
regular meetings, for the public's, benefit, we're looking at 30 minutes.
Yes,
Is that clear?
with the option to extend it to 60.
Great. And I like that way if we have 2 more, I think we've come to that situation before where we've had a few extra and then we've been like, well, we only allow 12, but there's 2 more. So to your point, it sort of gives everybody that option.
Well, I think if we show that there's people that aren't getting to speak because we've shut it down too much, it still opens the door to go back and expand it.
Great.
Agreed.
This is fantastic. Thank you for doing this. Daniel, what do we need to do for a motion with those few edits?
I'll give you a motion in a second, but I want to ask one more clarifying question. On the virtual comment, you know, we're going to change that to say this is going to be posted 1 week prior with the sign up to be closed at noon on the day of the meeting, or by noon, or whatever. I'll work with staff to pick that. Do you want to address, what I would worry about is if we don't address, you know, if you have 30 people sign up on, you know, on the Friday before, and now there's no, then are those people signed up first? Do they take priority over the people who show up in person? And do you want to go back to putting something in there around like the number of people that can sign up for comments on each one?
I
I
see
mean,
that.
maybe for fairness, we do half and half. Like, we don't let, if we have an abundance of people sign up for online and an abundance sign up for in-person, we take half of each. We make it so the end result is half from online and half from in-person. I mean, I don't know, what's the fairest way to accommodate
The
that?
fairest way in that case is take them all and expand the time, because people bother to get in their car, show up here, sit here, sign up here. They need to be able to speak, in my opinion.
Well, in past meetings, we've had a fixed number on the sign-up list.
Yeah.
And a fixed number from online.
But we didn't have a fixed number of total number. I mean, we did fixing by how much time each speaker had. So I think you need to keep it one way or another, but I think people who bother to show up to the meeting need to get a priority, or we need to be willing to extend that time.
You could authorize up to 15 people to sign up for online comments.
That's a good idea.
And then that way you're, well,
Right.
that's 15 times 2. I mean, I guess then you're.
But that
30.
does take, that's what the math, my math
Right,
mind was
right.
saying was, if we say a maximum of 15, and then there's a maximum of 15 here, that gets us to the 60 minutes. So essentially, if,
Right.
it would still be equitable. We wouldn't ever have more than 15 in each slot.
Right.
But we'd have to probably put that in here along with,
I agree with Debbie. If people come, well, notice is key. If people know, but there, I mean, it's foreseeable that we may have more than 15 in person, and if people take the time, the effort to come here, I think they absolutely should be able to comment. I think I would feel more comfortable with limiting virtual.
Yes, because number one, they have a whole week to sign up. These people have 15 minutes, right?
Right, I think I would not restrict the number of in-person. That would just be time, we just play that by ear, seeing how many people come, but I would feel more comfortable limiting.
What we could put is that you'll, if the board chooses to offer a virtual option to participate, which that also gives you, this is giving us the chance, like if we need to meet out at the other building and we
Exactly.
can't get virtual, you can say we can't do it this week or whatever. But also you could just say priority will be given to in-person speakers, and if there's time remaining during the allotted public comment period, you know, the online or virtual commenters will be taken in order or something like that. That way you can get through everybody who's signed up here to speak first, and then allow, if there's time, virtual commenters to.
Well, if you had 10 on each, 10 in person, 10 online, that's only 40 minutes speaking, and we set a deadline of 30. It is rare that all of the people who sign up to speak virtually show up. It's rare.
What if we have up to 10 virtual?
Yeah, I'm
And
good
then-
with that, but I don't think we should limit people who bother to come
So
here.
60-minute max,
Mm-hmm.
up to 10 of those can be virtual. So let's say the in-person list is filled up, the virtual list is filled up. If that situation arises, you give 10 of those to the virtual, the first 10, and the remaining all go to the in-person.
But we're still, even if we don't cap it, which is fine, we're capping it by saying it's
minutes.
60 minutes.
Correct.
So like, at the end of the day, whatever we put in as the number for virtual, which is fine to put just a number for virtual, the cap comes in dependent on
Time.
time.
Yeah.
So we still hit a cap, no matter what, in person. I just clarifying that there still will ultimately be
And
a
if
cap.
there's the chance, so many things, there's so many variables. I mean, if 4 people come in person and there are 20 on virtual, I would still, I mean, the point is we want to hear, and let's accommodate as many people as we can within the maximum of 60 minutes,
I
whatever
think-
that looks like.
I think if you limit 10, I mean, we, to my knowledge, haven't exceeded that in the past. We've exceeded the number who want to speak in person on some hot topics, but they can get over it because they have a number cut off for the BOC, for the school board, so I think the best way to do is limit the online. And if we see that Friday, that we've already got 10, go ahead and leave it open, and then you can decide if you have 14, that whether we take them or not, right?
As long as we don't exceed that.
As long as you
Right.
don't exceed that 60
Right.
minutes. yeah.
So basically, just put the cap on the number of
So
10 for
leave it up
virtual.
to the discretion of the board, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense,
Does
Daniel?
that work logistically, Michael?
Currently on the website, it's 12 and 12, just
Oh,
to throw
it's
that in there.
12?
It's 12 and 12, right? But we're reducing the time down to 2 minutes, so maybe we go with, I think Daniel was saying like 15 for virtual, that gets that first half an hour accessible for virtual up to that 30 minutes, and then that would be equitable for the in-person too, would be at 30 minutes if that filled up,
Okay.
which it has never filled up before, but I don't know, maybe it has. I agree with you though that people don't always show up.
It has
been a
filled
couple
up in person, has.
But both of them, we've had 1 or 2 times where
We have.
we have the whole list.
So I guess, I mean, that's what I would look at, I think, would be 15 max.
For virtual. Let's try that.
I would like to maybe see a final version of this before we vote on it, because we've changed quite a few things.
Okay.
Okay.
Table it until, when's our next meeting? Next week?
It is.
Sorry.
It's election night, so we won't take it up on election day. It'll be to the certification meeting, but that's fine.
We could do it, that we could vote on it.
It sounds like we're all on the same page. We just would like, I
Yes.
think everybody would like a clean copy.
I think so.
Agreed. So the changes that we want to see, the 15 minutes, the virtual time, and then,
Here, Kendall, this is some notes on this one.
Okay.
I'll give you that one.
thank you.
I didn't put the virtual public comment stuff on there, but you can.
Okay,
type
right.
it in.
The 15 minutes for sign up, in person, the virtual, go back to the current policy, but increase the number to 15. And then also the minutes, update it to reflect what we do currently.
But we're going to make a motion to table for now.
Yes, make a motion to table so that we can see a clean copy with those changes.
So is that a motion? If that was, I'll second it.
Sounds like a motion, and it
Yeah.
sounds like it's properly seconded. Let's vote. And the motion carries to table the public comment policy for final approval at our certification meeting in November, and it passes. Thank you. Next up, we've got our election of board officers, and we are going to let our counsel Daniel sort of administer that for us.
Sure, and I can't remember particularly how we discussed how the board was to handle it. Because we do, I know there was a comment made when the elections were made earlier this, a couple months ago, that we would just need to wait on the secretary. So that's an open one that is obviously necessary to do that. But on the other, if you wanted to address chair and vice chair again, you can. You would just probably need a motion to find that it's otherwise necessary to consider those two. So what I would appreciate is just among the board, whether if somebody wants to make a motion to hold elections or to authorize elections for either just the secretary position, which is vacant, or to authorize it for all three, and then I can work off of that.
I'll move to authorize it for all three.
Well, I did poll the two new people. Neither have any interest in running for the top two jobs, so I see no point in unless you want Stacy and Jennifer to swap jobs. Which I don't think Stacy felt like she had the
No,
bandwidth to
I
do
mean-
chair.
I've also talked to each board member, and it sounds like, I know Jen and I are happy to stay where we are, and Kendall and Reggie are happy for us to stay where we are, but, you know, there was a lot of talk a couple months ago that the new board members didn't have a say. And so if it makes any difference to the public or to us as a board to redo it, just so we can get it on record that every board member has had a voice in the composition, we can do a vote on all three. I'm happy to do that.
Well, I think they can speak now, and if they feel like they want to call a vote so they can vote, then yes. I know Reggie is willing to serve as secretary. That is a vacancy that does need filled. And so, since I'm the one that has the heartburn about the way things were done in July, and I don't think they should have been done that way, still don't, but I think it's up to Reggie and Kendall if they feel like they want to vote. If they want to vote, I'm fine with holding all three positions. If not, save
That's,
us a little time and just do the
Yeah,
secretary.
I'm in agreement with Debbie, because being new, I have no desire for chairman or vice chair. And so that's why I kind of went with the vote that I placed with Debbie earlier. So, I'm in favor just on the vacant seat and going from there. So,
I held off on jumping in with a point of order, but
Yeah,
there's a
I did
motion.
I did make.
sorry.
But it's. I will withdraw the motion.
Okay, all right.
I make a motion that the board vote on the open position of secretary.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, indicate by voting yes. All opposed?
Sorry.
All right, motion passes. So at this time, I'm gonna open the floor for nominations for the position of secretary. To serve, and it's gonna, just to clarify, it's gonna serve through the end of the regular term. So it'll start now and it'll serve through the regular, so the next odd year term that's in our bylaws.
Counselor,
Yes.
I nominate Reggie as secretary.
I second.
Okay. Any other nominations from the floor?
Maybe I should clarify, that's Reggie Turner, not Reggie Jackson or anybody else.
I think we know. Nobody else has an alias of Reggie that we know about on the board? Okay, so at this point, if there are no other nominations, I'll close the nominations, and since there's only one, we'll just take a motion to elect Board Member Turner for this term. Wait, we gotta have, let's go ahead and, let's get a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we call a vote to elect Reggie Turner.
Okay, that's fine. All in favor?
Second.
You second, got a second? All right.
second.
It's a little weird with elections, because technically, when you only have one nomination, you really are just taking a yes vote. So
I think we're just really excited to have Reggie in this position.
That's right. So, all in favor signify by entering your vote. Okay, it's unanimous. We have a new secretary. Congratulations.
You're ready to hand that over.
Reggie. All right. And now I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Michael, we've made it to your portion.
Almost forgot about it. I guess let me close my computer. Okay, I just have some short updates because we had a very robust conversation today, and I'm sure everyone's just so eager to see this presentation. Staffing update, it's, not much has changed since the last time. The main change is in the prep center. Rosie was selected for the full-time position, so of course that opens up her part-time position, and we are in the process of posting that. With absentee, they have a part-time elections coordinator too that was reposted. They did not find any candidates, so it's being reposted. In elections for KRA's admin, I believe they had someone, and when they informed the candidate, they had already accepted another job. So I believe she's continuing the interviews to try to find a replacement. In registration, still the same. They're reposting those two positions. They did not find any qualified applicants. And with the reclass of the part-time GIS analyst to, I believe, project coordinator, that is going to have to go through the whole reclass process again. We have not started that, but it's in process right now.
Can I ask you one quick question about the GIS? I think this has kind of gotten caught up in a few things, but that's the position that we're looking at reclassifying to be sort of the data analyst.
Sure, yeah, I think
Right.
the
I mean,
term was project coordinator, but yeah, data analyst.
Just as a follow-up item, will you let me know what you need? I think you need something from this board to help you with that reclass.
Okay, I'll get with HR and.
Okay.
It's really a conversation with Carly, and then we'll go from there.
Great. I just want to put that out there on the record, that we would like to make sure that that is reclassed properly, I recognize it might not happen until Q1, but that data position, I think everybody is eager to see in place.
Sure, yeah. I was under the impression that it was kind of already happening, but I think because of the change in the fiscal year, I'm not really sure what stopped it, and we have to restart the process again. So I just been a little busy, and we're trying to get around to it.
Look at it Q1, but I think you're going to need something from us, so just file that away.
Okay. And then here's our election calendar, if anyone's keeping up. I actually had to adjust and create a whole new graphic because it was taking up too much of the screen. So we have November 4th coming up, November 18th, and potential runoffs on December 2nd and December 16th. The December 2nd, we're thinking it'll probably be the city of Mariota. And of course, with SD 35, because there's 6 candidates, they'll be all
Can I
run off
just
there.
say something here? This graphic looks great versus text. So something like this, like infographics, Tammy, this is great. Something like this is just easier to read.
Sure, noted.
Thank-
Okay, divisional updates for absentee. The first day of mail out and the early voting starts tomorrow. As of this morning, we had 541 ballots to be mailed. Not quite as many as we thought, but honestly, in my opinion, it's more than I thought was going to come through. So also Wednesday, October 15th at 10 a.m., we will start logic and accuracy testing for November 18th. That is for the ICCs. Elections Division, 98% staffed for November 4th. KRA's been working really hard to get the last few percentage in there. Not concerned about it at all. We have plenty of people. It's just kind of working out the kinks right now. Training has been going on. The building has been rocking and rolling with training. Good to see a lot of faces in there, a lot of familiar faces too. So that means people are coming back there enjoying themselves. Training does end October 25th, 2 more weeks. Prep Center, LNA for November 18th starts Wednesday at 9 a.m. That's an hour before the absentee side with the ICCs. Right now, supplies, site survey, equipment crew, they're all working really hard to get everything together. It's a little chaotic right now with juggling 2 elections at the same time, and we're already a little tight on space in there. So they're doing a great job of trying to keep it kind of a controlled chaos and stay organized and keep everything separate. So my hat's off to the prep center on that. Deliveries for equipment will begin on Wednesday, October 29th. They were able to streamline the delivery schedule where typically they would deliver Monday before the election, a week before the election, all the way every day until Monday before Election Day. They were able to actually cut a couple days off of that and start on Wednesday rather than Monday. So we'll hope to keep that going as long as the facilities stay in line with us. Registration. So this is a handful here. Precinct cards. So this is the special precinct cards, 64,500. Those went, and I believe they started hitting mailboxes mid to late last week. That is the city of Marietta and co-locations. The next mailer in process are the daily precinct cards that need to go out. And that's where it gets a little complicated because that will also have to include the new registrations that met the deadline. But we don't have that file yet. So Melissa has been going back and forth with the state and with our vendor, trying to make sure that we can have these precinct cards in the mail as soon as possible. For the voter registration, like we said, the deadline was October 6th. They had approximately 1,200. I would imagine those are already complete. And this was an update from this morning, and she said that they were pretty close to finishing. So at this time, I'm sure they're up to date with applications. NCOA, on the 4th, 7,400 voter addresses were updated with changes. And out of those 7,400, we only received 25 responses. So the remainder of after those 25 were automatically updated. For out-of-state and out-of-county confirmations, they have 2 more days. So on 10/15, we have approximately 9,000 that will go inactive. Returned responses, 59. Admin, this is more the Jane side of it. Our business manager, October 3rd, started our new 2026 fiscal year. So that's when the budget opened back up for us and we could start buying things and planning what we needed for the upcoming elections. We also are targeted to start working on the 27-28 biennial. Our plan is due in the first of the year. I know in the past the board says that they would like to have some input, so once Jane and I have a better timeline of how this is going to go, I'll be sure to get with you guys so we're all on the same page, and any input that you have will get implemented into it. What we're looking at doing is trying to tailor the budget. Each year we're getting a little better and tracking the areas that we're in the red, what we know we always are overspending in, and try to move money from areas that we're not necessarily using all that money because it's not rolling over, it's just there. So we're gonna go line by line and try to make the adjustments so it just makes more sense. If we're overspending in this area, we're going to pull some money from one side and add it into the other line. It's going to be a heavy lift. We're going to have help from finance. It's Jane's first time doing this, but she is a veteran when it comes to this kind of work. So I'm fully confident. But we definitely want to focus on business operations, communications, and voter ed, and then of course employee engagement. It's really disheartening when we put the staff through the workload that they have to deal with and the timelines they have to deal with, and then I say, hey, let's buy lunch for the staff, or let's buy dinner when they have to stay there for 20 hours, but it's going to have to come out of our pocket because we don't have any money for things like that. So we're going to look at some unique ways that we can move some money around in the budget to just try to help with morale around the office, especially when we're in scenarios like we're in right now where, I don't think morale is down, but I think the closer we get to it and the more and more complicated it gets, that's when it really starts to take a toll on folks. And so anything we can do to lift spirits or, just improve morale, I think is essential for operations. So those are some of the things we're looking at working on when we're looking at fiscal year 27 and 28. And that is it.
Will you email us your slideshow?
Absolutely.
I've got a question for you on all of the job openings that you're having to go back and repost. What are we doing to look for candidates?
Well, I'd have to get with each division to know, but typically it's posted on our employment website, or it's heard through word of mouth, and we get applications that way. It kind of all flows through the Cobb County employment website. We have looked at adjusting some qualifications and some languages in the job descriptions. It's a whole thing. We have to go through all the proper channels to change things. There are certain requirements for each position, but it's my understanding that, you know, some of the things just needed to be updated a little better so we get a better pool of candidates. But as far as specifics.
So we don't go out there and look at any of the job search websites or post on those, like,
I'm not sure they may
Okay.
offer that option, but traditionally, they come through the Cobb employment.
yeah, because in the past, I've had a real problem with the amount of time that they post these job listings for non-employees, or there were jobs posted restricting to only employees, which I really question whether that's even legal. So I just want to make sure that we're not being very insular on how we're posting these jobs. The Cobb employment website is not easy to find these jobs on.
Okay.
I've had a lot of complaints from people who want to work for elections but never get a call back or never can find the job. So we might just want to play around and see how easy it is to find these jobs.
Sure. Yeah, I can have a conversation with
As
HR
an
too.
outsider, not.
Sure.
Okay.
And I will say, to that point, actually, when this board sort of had to undertake the election director search, I did have to go back to HR to ask them to post on election line separately. So I don't know if you're posting on that, but that's specifically, especially because what we do is so unique.
Sure.
And when it just falls under, you know, the regular county jobs, I think a lot of times people think it's an easy switch to move from water to elections, or, you know, to apply within the county. But what we do is very specialized. And so there are a lot of people out there now who look at elections as a career, and I think election line, I think that's a potential place. I know there's some other election job boards, but you might have to ask specifically for them to post there as well.
Sure.
You can also post for free on Firefly. Just, hey,
Yes.
we're looking for blah, 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 blah. That's free. And you're only dealing with election people on Firefly. So, anyway. Good job, Michael.
Thank you.
And thank you for all you're doing and all that's being thrown at you. You're going to get some kind of Medal of Honor, I think.
I appreciate it, but it's not just me. It's a lot of those people sitting right there, a lot of people in the
Oh, I
office.
know, they all
it's a
work
team
their
effort,
butts
for
off.
sure.
I know, yeah, but.
Do we have any other questions for Michael? Kendall?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to make 2 comments. I want to commend you and your staff. I was excited to hear that the November 4th election is 98% staffed. That's exciting. I'm sure that relieves stress. That is awesome. And also, I love the budget adjustments that you're going to make.
Sure.
I like all 3 of those adjustments. Thank you.
Agreed, Michael. Thank you. That was really thorough. I feel like that's a lot of what we're looking for, so I appreciate that. If there's no other comments from Michael, I think we'll move to board member comments. Want to start, Debbie?
No comments.
Reggie?
No comments.
I have one quick comment. I got a phone call last week that you guys did an amazing job hosting the Pope High School students, giving them a tour through the office. My friend was the one who took the students there, and I think it was Tammy and Debbie that led them, and she said, like, my friend, the mom, learned a lot. The students were just amazed at how much goes into the elections behind the scenes. You know, people know that you put your card in to cast your ballot, but most of the public doesn't even understand all the complicated processes that happen, and they had a great experience. So thank you to giving them such a great learning experience last week.
Yeah, I know Tammy and Debbie, they worked really hard on that. I mean, they were walking through, doing, run-through presentations, and to the point even where, okay, when I say this, you do this. So, they were trying to get down to every minute, every second, because they know how important sticking to the timeline is, and we got a lot going on. So hats off to them. They did a great job.
I don't have any additional comments.
I know we're at 5:30, but I want to say a couple quick things. One is, Stacy brought this up, but it was on my list. The Pope High School tour and sort of accommodating, that's sort of been a pet project. My daughter went to high school there, and she obtained the Civic Service seal thanks to Tammy's suggestion and all of her election work. And we've been trying to sort of get that initiative rolled out at the high school where the kids in the Pope High School Globalization Academy are able to come to the election office and get their hours to obtain their civic service seal and sort of rejuvenate that program, the statewide seal, diploma seal at Pope High School. And so I am very, very grateful and so excited for you to continue that work that you all started with Lily. And I think that's going to inspire sort of a new generation of high school students here in Cobb to engage. And I hope we'll take advantage of that with other high schools, and that we'll be able to duplicate what you guys have done. So thank you both very much for that. And then I also wanted to thank you for the orientation and thank Daniel for the orientation. And I think everybody, it was a goal of mine to get us all together in some sort of work session format. And I was really thrilled with how it turned out. And I think we all worked together in a collaborative way, staff, Daniel, this board. And I just wanted to thank everybody for that. So
Thank you. That was great. And we learned that Debbie is not a arts and crafts kind of girl.
Debbie does not like arts and crafts, but.
I'm not into arts and crafts.
But anyway, that was a really, it was a big lift in a busy time, and I appreciate everybody coming to the table. The binders were amazing and well put together, well thought out, and everybody came together. So thank you all very much. And with that in mind, I know Daniel needs us for a little bit of
Just very
executive
short.
session.
Litigation update. Yep.
We have,
This year.
so do I have a motion to move into executive session for the purposes of litigation updates?
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, and all those in favor? We are now in executive session at 5:32 PM, and it looks like the public knows exactly what to do.